Formula One's Jewel in the Crown event didn't really feel like much of a jewel in the end. The party is happening, as you probably can hear, as Tim Kraaij for GPBlog is on the ground in Monte Carlo after a race of strategy, if that's the right word, where the two-stop mandate from the FIA did work. It made Monaco a little bit more interesting, but I don't know if I'd call it racing. Tim, this wasn't the intended consequence of this rule, I don't think.
No, this was horrible to watch, to be honest. I love Monaco. I love being here. I won't go dancing here on camera. Even if it's going on TikTok, I won't.
Please.
But even not that. No, but yeah, it's been a horror show. It's been similar like last year. And of course, we had the two stops. Of course, there was the hope that it would be more interesting, but you still need an outlier aspect in terms of the weather, in terms of a red flag, in terms of safety cars to really spice things up here. And yeah, it's not good for F1, and especially not with the tactics that we've seen over the weekend.
It was a procession, but in a different way. I don't know if that's an advantage or not. This was teamwork in a very unusual way. I know Racing Bulls started it, and then we saw Williams copying that, and then to a lesser extent, Mercedes. What did the drivers have to say about gaining points this way and having to drive so differently?
I think the overall consensus was that everyone knew that this was the plan all along, that it was everyone would have done this if they had been in the same position. Racing Bulls were in the right position to do this tactic. Williams copied it after this to gain some points after all. But I think, yeah, at the end, no one was really happy. Even Carlos Sainz, who benefited from the strategy, I spoke to him afterwards in the panel. It was like, I'm not really enjoying this, and he could understand the frustration with George Russell as well to overshoot the chicane. So I think overall no one is happy with the solution. Everyone understands F1 trying different things with the two stops. This was not the solution. And I think the overall problem here in Monaco is still that you can't overtake, and that more and more teams starting to figure that out. Some people can just drive as slow as possible, and now it was for P6, P7, but imagine being McLaren 1 and 2, they would have done it for the lead and to keep a 1-2, and I think that's not a good image for F1.
No, it's not, Tim. No, it's not. The person that was leading the race for quite a long portion of it, who never ended up being on the podium, was Max Verstappen for similar reasons. You always get a chance to speak with Red Bull and Max Verstappen. What has he got to say about the race and his chances of getting some silverware?
Maybe we can do 4 stops, was his first reaction after the race. Cynical as ever. Yeah, it all sums it up. Max was one of the loudest last year after the race. Of course, we tried something. Max was quite excited about the fact that we were doing something different this year, but it didn't work out. The stops are not the problem. It creates a little bit more interesting strategics, but overall it's going against everything what F1 stands for. F1 wants to be the quickest. All the teams are the $1 million industries. We were talking about cars that are going the fastest of all, but not in Monaco, not on the race in Monaco. We're only doing as slow as possible. We need something else to spice things up in Monaco, because in the certain way we do Monaco now, of course qualifying is still a big hit. I've never fucking seen this. And just to imagine, like there is 5 meters of gap behind my camera, and he's walking. Okay. What was I saying?
Let me pick up for you. The teams aren't happy. The drivers aren't happy. But they did try something different. It didn't work. But did anyone actually come up with a solution? Because there's got to be some way of making this work. Or is it just the cars and this track don't work together now?
I think unfortunately not at the moment. Because at the moment it's like... Sorry, I was distracted again. Let me do it. The guy came along again. Okay, focus. Solution. No, there is not a real solution. Everyone is a little bit, in a limbo phase. They tried something. There were not really other solutions before the start of the weekend either. So this was the solution they thought would help over the weekend, but it didn't. So they need to go back to the drawing board, find something else, because we have new racks, we have new engine regulations for next year, but Monaco will be the same problem because the cars are too big for the circuit. I think, at the moment, Monaco is not suited for F1 where it is at this point in time. And of course, we have an amazing qualifying. We have amazing weekends up until the Sunday. Sunday, it has been last year, it has been this year. It's a little bit too much. And with all the teams exploiting the fact that you can't overtake here in Monaco is becoming a farce. We really need something else next year to, not have so many people tune out on Sunday, which I could really understand. I'm here, the lucky one in Monaco, but even here in the media center, I think more of half the people were snoring and sleeping.
The best place to have a nap is the Monaco Grand Prix. Get on your couch and fall asleep. Let's look a little bit at the championship, though, because there's one thing that has changed, and a benefit we can say for this race at least, is the championship continues to tighten up. What are we thinking for the championship at this point? Do McLaren start to think about looking at Max Verstappen as a threat to their championship, like going back to 2007 when Kimi Räikkönen stole their march over Hamilton and Alonso?
I think that's what keeps the championship exciting, that we have two McLaren drivers that are too close for comfort, you would say, at McLaren, where they both keep nicking points off from each other, and now Lando Norris getting back to Oscar Piastri in the standings, only 3 points gap now, and that keeps Max Verstappen constant in the running for the championship. And then coming back to the whole fruit bowl discussion that we had over the whole weekend, we've had now the peach race here in Monaco, but we will have other races as well with the Apple circuits, Pierce circuits, especially the circuits that will suit Red Bull are the one in Spain, but I think maybe Canada as well, where we can see Red Bull win again. But it will be tight over the whole season, and I will be there in Qatar and Abu Dhabi at the end of the season. I think the championship won't be finished up until then.
If you are confused by what Tim's talking about, why he's gone a little bit coconuts, please do look at the previous paddock updates to get a bit of an insight to what Andrea Stella was saying. Tim, let's just finish this up because we've got the longer-awaited technical regulation update from Barcelona with the FlexiWing saga that you've spoken about, you and I, many times this season. That's coming into force next weekend. What is your thoughts on what's going to happen when we get to Barcelona?
I'm never a big fan of the TD speculation because it's just the same rules, but the test is a little bit different. And of course, every team will come up with a new front wing. I think no one really knows. I think every team will be hurt by the new TD in some sort of way. Barcelona will show the new picture. Not a lot will change because the front wing has an impact on the current car, of course, but more in terms of how you can set up the car. So maybe a McLaren will be a little bit more difficult to set up than it is now, but I don't expect too much, to be honest.
Well, you've really hyped that race up, Tim, but there's one way to find out, and that's to watch the race next weekend. I'm excited to see if there's a bit of a shake-up, and if there's not, well, the excuses have to stop from the other teams, and they have to just catch McLaren. We're going to find out what happens because GPBlog are on the ground in Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix. Tim, you've been great in Monaco. The music stopped and started, so you can go back to your partying ways. Thank you for everything that you've given us so far, and thank you everybody else for watching.